everybody, this is Rob Keens with GoldSilverPros.com. I'm joined by my good friend Chris Marcus of Arcadia Economics, who has been comfortably ensconced down there in Mexico for some time. I'm completely jealous, of course, and is joining us from a restaurant somewhere in a marina in Puerto Vallarta. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well, Rob. Quite an honor and a pleasure to be on your show as always. And yes, I am here in the marina of Puerto Vallarta, checking into a resort later today, not because I'm on vacation, but the dedication to quality control for Silverfest 2. Make sure we have the right pool amenities, water slides. If we're going to play Silver Jeopardy from the pool, and I'm going to be throwing silver coins out somewhere, you have to have some of those things taken care of in advance, which is how we do it in Arcadia. So that's where I'm at today, and good to be here.
Well, it sounds like you're enjoying your work, which is always a good thing when you can do that. You can align what you like to do in life with how you support yourself. You've certainly done a very successful job of that. And I did want to talk about the conference quite a bit today. I think we're both planning conferences coming up, so we'll talk about those and all the fun that we're going to have. I did want to get to one headline, though, for our viewers. It's something you covered a couple of days ago on your channel. It's JP Morgan. There was an article on CNBC about JP Morgan hoarding cash, which would allow them to survive what they think is non-transitory inflation. So I thought that was very interesting. One of the big mega banks saying that the inflation is not transitory.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they looked at the Fed's balance sheet. Maybe Jamie Dimon has common sense. I'm not sure what else there is to say about it. I know there was that story that was a couple months ago that 40% of the dollars in existence have been printed in the last year. Didn't Biden just fire off another $3.5 trillion on infrastructure? And by the way, I'd be happy to comment on my thoughts on these infrastructure programs. And if that's really the way to solve everything, by printing money to put cones on the side of the road, but
maybe we can all turn into construction workers, Chris, and that's how we solve it. We'll just go build a bunch of stuff, build a bunch of buildings and cities and bridges we don't need, and maybe we'll figure out a way to use them later.
Well, I think that's roughly the plan, because we heard about this inflation that was transitory back when Ben Bernanke was doing it. That was 12 years ago. Now it's still supposedly transitory. Anyone who has common sense, who can see what's happening, it's quite obvious it's not going to be transitory. Even Jamie Dimon is now admitting it. I thought it was interesting, though, if he's really concerned about inflation, he's talking about inflation of the money supply, which means paper dollars. So and I think this is reflective of Western investing. He's concerned about inflation because they're going to print money, but he's buying the money that's being printed. It's kind of like a little bit backwards, which is not to say it can't be a profitable trade, especially if you have the ability to front run the markets, screw your customers and face no penalties for that. But if he's acknowledging that the inflation isn't transitory, which means okay, so now it's not just Silverbugs saying that. So now either Jamie Dimon's wrong or Powell is wrong. Because they're saying the opposite. So it's not, you don't have to take my opinion. You can look at the Fed's balance sheet, look at the politics, decide for yourself what's going to happen, and you can say who's right. But it's not just the Silverbugs saying it. Now either Jamie Dimon or Powell. You got to pick a side. You don't have to, but so if that's the case, I don't know, it makes me feel better about basically going all in on silver, because Rob, and I think you're qualified to comment on this, I would say that people who actually understand, who have seen inside finance, have seen how wacky things are, understand all the money, anyone who understands anything about what the Fed is actually doing, when it comes to inflation, even more than Bitcoin and even more than gold, the people who really have seen this have read The Creature from Jekyll Island, have studied these programs, my experience, they go even more towards silver than any other asset. Is that what your experience has been as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
So yet here we have gold is, it's close to its all-time highs, the double 1980 levels. Bitcoin is a 320 bagger in the last 8 years. Silver's at half of its, 1980 high. We now have footage of this, the chairman of the CFTC, talking in detail about a price fixing operation. People tweet him, send emails. I've called, written letters asking, can you explain, is there any way when you say the price got tamped down because of the futures market structure, that I might add is voted on by Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. So you actually have the criminals. Here's JP Morgan, $920 million last year for rigging the price of silver on hundreds of thousands of occasions. And you can actually go onto the CFTC's channel and see JP Morgan voting on this futures market structure that the CFTC chairman confirmed tamped down the price and controlled the price and the volatility. So I don't really know what we're arguing about here anymore. I mean, if someone, thinks silver manipulation is, flying saucer talk, yeah, great, knock yourself out. I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm just sharing what I've seen. You can listen to the people say it. You can listen to Jeff Curry go on TV, say a short squeeze is impossible, then stick language into his own trust, specifically protecting them legally against a short squeeze. You can see the LBMA, where it has JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs as member firms, admit that they were scared of running out of metal. And I mean, while I'd say in the past couple of weeks, Andy Schechtman mentioned premiums and volume has come down a little bit, it's still been well beyond last year's pace. And I might add, for anyone who says, well, the manipulation is never going to end, we have about 1 billion ounces of supply per year, and industry takes about anywhere from 600 to 800 million. So that leaves about 300 million left over. Now, in the past decade, when silver was getting clobbered from $50 and sitting there for 16, and a lot of people, everyone's watching their neighbor make a fortune in the stock market bubble or load up on Tesla shares, up 15x or so since the swap lines in 2019. So you killed the interest. And yes, you can keep the Ponzi scheme going then. But last year, there was the Silver Institute shows about 250 million ounce deficit. So maybe it was a coincidence that that's when the price finally jumped up $10 in the matter of a couple of weeks. And maybe when you put that in the context of the other things that some people don't like hearing, don't want to believe, and I can understand that. I mean, it's unfortunate that here the people that have sworn an oath said, hey, we're going to protect the American public. And they couldn't have more blatantly have violated and abused it, which is not what I would choose, although in the end it is what it is. At least once we know, right, if you know that the other guy playing poker there is using a marked deck, but now you know and you know how to read it, you sit there and eat his lunch for him. I think that's what's happening. People realize these guys have been lying. They've gotten caught enough ways. There's a reason Wall Street silver is growing like it is, because the evidence is there. And if you want to watch CNBC and just call anyone a moron who says it, great, that's fine. But the evidence is there, and I think the people that are able to incorporate that into some sort of plan that allows them to sleep at night and let time work on their side are gonna, I'm trying to be careful of how I say this, but as the years have gone along, I've never seen anything that countered whether the market was manipulated. But now as it's seemingly getting in the very late innings, when you just think about what has to happen to balance anything, I don't think it's going to be we're looking at a $50 or $75 or $100 silver price. I mean, when this stuff comes, when the bill finally comes due, and if you want to tell me it gets dragged out longer than anyone thinks would be possible, sure, I'll believe that. But I mean, this thing, it's... What if silver got the 320x multiple Bitcoin got over the last 8 years? Keith Neumeyer was quoted in an article talking about $1,000 silver. To get to $1,000 silver, that'd be a 40 bagger. I mean, you're like barely into Tesla territory. So I mean, I get it where we've been. This is a great example of the recency bias. Well, for the last, decade, we've gotten used to any time, they print more money, banks come in, hammer away, and, there you go. So I get that. It's probably the same thing people are warning about the real estate bubble. We're saying in 2006, well, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Well, never is a lot different than a long time from now, or at some point, I think most Western investors struggle to properly price tail risk. We'll see if I'm right on that or not. But, to me, it's worth the wait. I also don't understand what is the alternative if someone says, all right, well, I'm tired of waiting in silver. I mean, say you want to leave something behind for your retirement or your children. I mean, are you going to go into treasuries that are negative yielding or a stock market bubble? So these are the things that I don't know. If I'm missing something, no one's been willing to explain it to me in the past decade, and that's where I've remained in the silver camp.
Yeah, I don't think you're missing anything at all, and I agree with you. And we've talked about that many times. Precious metals is what I chose to do about 12 years ago, after the last financial crisis, for the very same reasons. And to me, it doesn't matter if it takes 10 years or 30 years. Like you said, everything that I'm going to make in my lifetime, either I'm going to spend it on myself or it's going to go to my kids. So I'm not going to get into a speculative stock in a bubble like a bond or a Tesla stock. That they don't have any value to me whatsoever. I'd rather be in something that's real and tangible. And that argument's not going to change for me at all anytime soon. I want to turn attention over to your conference because I know you're going to be running one here.
Does that mean that? I'm sorry, I just wanted to check. Does that mean that you didn't sell your silver under the possibility that the inflation would be transitory?
No, I never believed it would be transitory at all. I mean, come on, give me a break. We both follow Austrian economics. We know what happens when they inflate the money supply. It eventually works its way down into the supply chain, into goods and services, and then you eventually have the death of the currency. Chris, if there were ever one fucking exception to that rule in the history of fiat currencies, I could see the argument against it. But there isn't one exception. There are no exceptions. So it's an inevitability. It doesn't matter the exact date. It just means that that's what always tends to happen in these situations. So if that's what always tends to happen, me being a risk analyst and having a risk background, that's a risk I'm not willing to take. And if I were retiring tomorrow, sure, I might liquidate some of my silver and gold to help me pay for that retirement. But I've got a few years left, so I'm going to stick around, in that. And in fact, I'll have some of my holdings in that for the next 20, 30 years, I'm sure.
Well, I'm glad to hear you got a few years left on the clock. I won't make you say this. I'll probably embarrass you a little bit, but as I've told you before, at least when I sit here and think about it, now a lot of people think Warren Buffett, greatest investor of our generation, yet he seems utterly perplexed by monetary policy or why anybody would even consider gold, despite his father, Howard Buffett, who sounded like the Ron Paul of his day. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, I think there are going to be people who are looking at you as one of the great financial analysts of our time with the way either we're massively right or massively wrong. And if we're massively wrong, then I don't know, I'll go play the guitar or something. But
right.
Actually, I'll do that anyway. But I mean, I think we're right. I think it's just a matter of patience. And if you turn out to be correct, I mean, I think it's quite exciting that I get to know you and be your friend. And
Chris, I got to interrupt you there. You've got to start playing your guitar on the show. That's something we got to do. We got to get you doing. It's awesome. I've had a couple of private concerts with you. It's awesome. We definitely have to put this up for your viewers.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mentioned before that I was listening to this recording. It's when you were in Austin a couple months ago and we went to the studio and we were playing. And I hadn't heard it for a while. I'm just going through this recorder. It'd been a while since I'm hearing all this stuff on there. And there's this great banter, like I'm talking and then we're jamming and you're telling me how you're going to be a great guitar player. I asked if you wanted to play keys or guitar, and you're like, I think you're going to play the guitar. And that's one of the things, especially with Silverfest coming up, I'm excited really to getting back in balance in my life where, the silver and the finance thing, it's incredible and it's fascinating. I've been guilty of this more than anyone, but there's also perhaps a rightful place to put it in your life. I mean, hey, the price is manipulated, so we don't know how many more days there are going to be when you wake up, the thing's hammered, even if there's a 7% inflation print. Yet somehow remembering, all right, well, I can walk outside, I'm healthy. For me, playing music, and in fact, I'll pull something up here. This is actually the landing page for when Fish, the band Fish, one of my favorites that I was shocked to hear that you weren't aware of, Rob, but we'll change that. When they go to Mexico, this is their landing page. And I basically have someone building me something that will look exactly like this because while this is in Cancun, I will be going to a resort later today doing quality control. We're going to be setting something up like this so that even if you were just coming just to be there, you would have an incredible time. So really my intention was to make this the most magical 5 days that a silver investor or fan or lover could imagine. It's not going to be a conference in the typical sense. It'll be more festival, let's say, but having the ability to have a lunch with Rob Keynes and talk with them, ask your questions, play Silver Jeopardy in the pool, win silver prizes. Rob, I won't share the whole secret today, but I told you earlier offline on recording of some of the rather shocking things people are going to experience in terms of silver giveaways. And without laying out the secrets, was I bluffing on that one, or do you think people will want to catch part of that?
Oh yeah, I think they should stay tuned. There's going to be silver flying everywhere.
Yeah, and you could play golf with Andy Schechtman. Rob, are you a golfer?
I used to be. I got to break out the old irons and see how good I am now.
All right. Well, I have a feeling I've seen before your ability to sit in the pool and hang out and have a lot of fun and talk to people. I think you're an expert at that. Also well qualified walking on the beach. I'll bet if this guy were coming towards you with this plate of Coronas, you could help drink some and share them with your friends, because I know you have tens of thousands of subscribers. And a lot of people really look to you for your advice and insight. So those are things you think you could help with. I could mark you down for that role.
Mark me down for the beer tasting contest.
Well, I'll put you down a slot, taste beers with Rob Keynes. That's the kind of events. We'll also be going to a silver mine with Jorge from Reina Silver.
Awesome.
I think it's possible, not confirmed yet, whether Dr. Peter McGaw will be joining us for that tour. Although that's the kind of stuff, we're finalizing the schedule, but, you know, go silver shopping with Silver Bill Murphy, or just a lot of fun things where you get to be in a pool, a tropical location around people who get what you're seeing and just having a lot of fun. And that will be October 26th through 31st in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We're picking the resort, so there's no landing page yet, but it will be those dates. And certainly, Rob, I think for all of your fans and your channel that want to come on a great vacation and finally get a chance to meet you, I think they will be excited about it.
Yeah, I'm totally excited about it. I look forward to coming down. At some point, I'm going to come down and scout out some resorts for you, or maybe when you pick the resort, I'll just go stay for a week. In any case, I'm looking forward to going down there for sure at the conference. I believe you will be coming to my conference as well in August. We're going to have the second edition of the Money Metal Summit, August 19th and 20th. For our subscribers, stay tuned to announcement about that coming out this coming Tuesday. We'll have the landing page up and the registration. Registration will be free for everybody that wants to attend. We've already got our lineup of speakers sorted out and getting them situated. I believe Chris Marcus will be in a round table with Andy Schechtman and a couple of other guests talking silver. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll have prizes and giveaways too. Ours is going to be virtual this time around, but we're thinking about doing an on-site component as well. So stay tuned for that. And we're putting together a private deal room for those of you who are investors and want to meet some of the companies at the conference. So we'll make an announcement on that as well. So I think two great conferences coming up for people in the space. I think you guys should definitely consider going to both. But I know I'm going to be at Silverfest for sure. So in fact, I may stay over a couple extra days and just enjoy my time there in Puerto Vallarta.
I think that would be the safe thing to do, knowing the large silver deposits that can be found in Mexico. Although, Rob, since you mentioned prizes and giveaways, and also the date of your conference, which, you know, my one-track mind, I'm already thinking how exciting that we will have seen July's inflation number from the BLS. And I'll tell you what, I will toss in a 10-ounce silver bar if you would like to have a contest of what July's inflation number will be, and people could pick a number. I'm going to get a little crazy. It just popped to my mind. I'm going to say 7.2%. Okay. And if you would like to set that up and people can put in their guess, and whoever gets the closest could win the 10-ounce silver bar, or maybe we could do coins if there's multiple winners. But
Awesome.
yeah, I think that should be exciting seeing, because I think we've reached that stage. I don't think this is stuff we're talking about one day anymore. I get it, the gold and silver prices haven't moved. And I saw that, the London banks, they're getting exempt from the Basel III and all that. And I can't prove this, but my gut feel is still that I don't think nothing is happening. I think there's a lot of stuff happening, whether we know exactly what it is or the specific details. We have imperfect information, but either way, I think we're at that point where these things are really accelerating now. I mean, we're getting 5+% inflation rates. I mean, and Bernanke can sit there and say, oh, it's normal and transitory. But I mean, this is like, it's like the house is on fire now with ferocious flames. I mean, you can say like, it's just just drop the match over there. It'll go out on its own. But I mean, this is, and there's nothing that would indicate that is going to turn around. That's why when you say this inflation's transitory, well, maybe if they weren't like firing off another couple trillion every month or so, then I could see it being possible. But it's like, someone broke his knee, if you keep smashing it with a sledgehammer and you're wondering, oh, it's going to heal soon. I think people get confused because they think it's a legitimate system where honest people are trying their best. I think we've seen as clear as you're ever going to see it. It's a broad day bank robbery.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. It's people taking advantage of other people in the system. And I don't even believe the inflation print. I mean, 5.4 on the CPI scale is like a 9.1 on the Richter scale. It's actually a lot bigger than what you think it is. And that's a pretty big print for the U.S. And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. Huh?
If you said like back in 1990 or 1970 that, hey, we're going to have a 5% inflation print, you would think that was the knockout blow for the financial system.
Yeah.
I mean, 5%, and it's like they're, just no matter what happens, they sit there and lie about it and try and get people to pretend that the canaries aren't falling over in the coal mine. And
yep.
Amazingly enough, they still run that headline, oh, dollar strength and gold sold off. I mean, fine, but it doesn't change. And that's why I appreciate, what you do and the other people who do this. I mean, these are significant things that are happening now. And for people who want to understand what's happening, and I think gives you an incredible ability to plan and make great decisions. You don't have to decide what I do, agree with what I do, but just when you hear and get this other perspective that I found was never shared on Wall Street during my time there, but seemed to be a lot more how things actually worked. So when you put those things together, it can make these things doable. Not always the easiest thing, but it's nice that you're out there helping explain it to people.
Yeah, I think we both are, and I think we're doing our level best. And you and I have talked about this, in private conversations many times. It takes a lot of energy to do what we do. We do it because we love the community and because we're trying to do something positive for people, help out as many people as we can, and just we want to live our life in a way in which what we're doing really helps society. And I think that we both done our level best here. I think the conferences are going to be sort of the payoff for that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for people to come. We're going to build communities there. We want people to enjoy themselves, to meet other people that think the same way that we do. And I'm really looking forward to both of those. Chris, any last thoughts before we log off for today?
Well, I just echo what you're saying there, as it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Certainly, I've spent my time complaining about the banks and being angry at JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs and the CFTC. And I don't know, maybe I could justify that, it was technically right, factually, yet I don't know if that maybe with some further reflection, is that the most important thing? Maybe there's always going to be good and evil in the world, and what we focus on is what we commit energy to. And I think it's really exciting, like you mentioned, Rob, where now, especially after this year of COVID, where it was interesting, the timing. You and I, we met in person for the first time right before last year's PDAC. And it was kind of cool. I think both of our shows were starting to become a little bit more well-known. And then you had in-person events stop. So, but I think it's exciting to really get towards connecting people. I mean, all right, we know that the price is rigged. It's going to go up at some point. But now it's like, wow, this is cool. Right, fine. The banks are going to do what they do, but we can shift towards actually building solutions to a lot of these things, getting people together. I think that's the biggest weapon that's been used. You know, they call you a conspiracy theory. So if you talk about this stuff, anyone thinks you're a Fruit Loop. But when you get together and can share ideas with
well, I
people
am a Fruit Loop,
similar...
but that's a different story, Chris.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know we don't, subscribe to Keynesian economics and, vote Joe Biden and stuff like that, which isn't so popular in America these days. But I think there's a lot of people who feel similarly. And, again, it's Silverfest, your conference. Yeah, there's we'll talk about this, talk about that, but really just having ways for people to meet each other, meet others. Didn't really quite get the network thing when I was in Penn Wharton Business School. Now when I see it, really it's like, wow, all these great people that have the ability to call, that have such great depth of knowledge in different areas. When you really start thinking about, especially, let's say there is someone who got laid off from a job or is exiting the corporate thing, is a little unsure of how to proceed. It took me a while to figure it out, but it's like now it's interesting. You have access to people who've done these things and succeeded and have a similar mindset. A lot of gold and silver companies are doing really well, and it's exciting. That's going to be a growing area of income for people who want to get involved there. So there's a lot of positives, and I'll be excited to be bringing those actually person to person into real life with you going forward. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's like in a new way, unlike I've ever really thought of things before. I feel proud of what I'll be able to participate in, helping to leave behind whenever my time on the planet is done.
Yep. I agree with you 100%, Chris. Appreciate everything that you've done. I know we've been good friends through this whole thing, and it's always great to go through this with someone who's supporting you. So I appreciate all the support I've gotten from you over the years. We'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Stay tuned for more. Chris and I will be together again very soon, doing some conference planning activities, and then again, can't wait until Silverfest in October. We'll see everybody there in person, and talk to you next time, Chris.
All right, thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.